This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is Jim. That is Jim Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jeez. Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
It's only Tuesday.
I have no idea. Yes.
It's only Tuesday, Jim. We're in trouble.
It's been a long week.
I tell you, and I was just talking to Emily about this. Who knew? Because usually after New Year's, right? The province of Quebec, a tradition, doesn't really do anything till the end of the month, and there's news breaking out left, right, and center.
It's true.
I mean, it's crazy business.
All right. Well, let's start with some of that news. I'm not sure where you want to get going, so you pick. What do you want to do?
I think Sophie Brochu.
Sure.
Okay.
Is we were talking about this last October. She raised a few eyebrows. She was on an interview with Paul Arcand. And remember, I mean, it's a big show, and she had the biggest job, highest paid public servant in Quebec. And she's on there, and she's basically saying, listen, if this government wants to turn Hydro-Quebec into the Dollarama of energy companies in an effort to, get companies to settle here and get cheap energy and whatever, I may have some questions to ask. And she made it clear that she was staking out her ground, that she had a particular vision, which was affordable energy for Quebecers, but also energy provided in an environmentally friendly way and in a way that will give some concrete, backing to this idea that we want to transition to electrical energy and so on and so forth. And he couldn't help but get the feeling, though, when she uttered that, she knew perhaps then that the jig was up, that Pierre Fitzgibbon, who had been named Minister of Energy on top of Minister of the Economy, well, the writing wasn't just on the wall, it was on the wall in like 25-foot high letters. But what I find interesting about this development today is that I think for the first time since 2018, we are seeing the Legault government function the way Legault wants the government to function, which is like a corporation. We have an agenda, we have objectives, we have targets, and you're either on board or you're overboard. And I think this became clear to Madame Brochu, who's no stranger to corporate politics. And she figured, that there's no point in getting involved. This little sort of dog and pony show, this idea that Madame Brochu had been invited to sit on this transition council, that she would have a say here, this idea of inclusiveness was absolute rubbish. As I speak to you guys, Pierre Fitzgibbon is the CEO of Hydro-Quebec. Mm-hmm. And, with all due respect to anybody who is nominated and is hired, I would bet you fully money that the big selling point for their being hired will be that their point of view on the future of Hydro-Quebec is in laser-like synchronization with that of François Legault and Pierre Fitzgibbon. François Legault really has this obsession about rejuvenating Quebec's economy. He's always citing, we can't be a have-not province. It's ridiculous. We want to, our economy, we want to get it ahead of Ontario's and so on and so forth. Good paying jobs. We've heard it all. Well, this is pretty well where it starts. I mean, we're talking about, revenue in trillions of dollars down the road. And this is where I think even beyond all the stuff we've talked about language, identity, social peace, whatever, this is something that François Legault genuinely cares about very, very deeply. And the most elegant way I can say this is that when it comes to Hydro-Quebec, François Legault will not be stopped.
This is where I'm confused, though, because Sophie Brochu is known to have just been absolutely exemplary on the job. She is in huge demand. She could pretty much have any position she wants. She was an absolute asset. And yet they don't seem, I don't know how they feel about her leaving, but I'm sure that, with Fitzgibbon taking over the reins, if you will, they're probably okay with it. I don't get that, Jim. I don't get it.
Well, listen, even, Legault and Fitzgibbon, they both did the obligatory tweets this morning. And essentially, it's, you were great. Thanks for your contribution. The only phrase that was missing was, good luck in your future endeavors. But everyone knew that this is how this was going to unfold. As I said, it's not every day that the president of Hydro-Quebec essentially very publicly questions the potential direction that the Crown Corporation is going to take. But that's what happened in October. And essentially Hydro-Quebec's vision, its future, will be determined by legislation which is being tabled by, oh, wait a second, Pierre Fitzgibbon, when the session resumes. So we're going to see how that's going to go. But bottom line here, what was once seen as a major achievement for Quebec, the idea that Quebecers could rely on abundant and affordable energy, that's been sort of, it's the 21st century. We need the money. We need the cash. And it needs to adhere to Francois Legault's vision. Whether you like it or not, I mean, he wants Quebec, in independence in all but name. Well, that's going to have to start with economic independence, and Hydro-Quebec is going to be the biggest, the foundation for the stairway that's going to lead to that.
Okay,
So,
but my question then becomes, it's not even a debate as to whether she was a great CEO. We know she was uniformly, lauded by people in the industry and people basically in that position in other jobs. Doesn't the government have at some point some responsibility here to say, hey, you know what? We're sorry you're leaving here. Can we try to find something else? We value what you've done. We value your judgment and want to find a place for you?
Well, I think when you're at the top of the pyramid scale, pay scale in the Quebec public service, and plus, I don't think this, Sophie Brochu woke up one morning and said, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm getting out of here. I'm pretty sure that she saw the stars aligning in a certain way, and clearly she saw it last October. She didn't see things, changing. There had been talk about, how can I put it, tense relations, strained relations with Mr. Fitzgibbon. But I'm sorry, you guys are talking like, well, we could use her someplace else. She disagreed with the party. She disagreed with the policy. That's where the conversation stopped.
To me, that raises her stock even more, because then on top of it, she's a woman of principle. She was 2 years.
And we'll see how the public, will react, because as we know, this is a government that functions by poll, by survey. But, it was clear that you couldn't afford to have a squeaky wheel on the vehicle of economic prosperity that Francois Legault was trying to build. So she knew, I can go, or I can be placed in a situation where it's going to look as if I got ousted. So let me be the mistress of my own domain here and essentially leave on my own steam. I'm not worried about Sophie Brochu finding a job. I am worried, though, about the governance of Hydro-Quebec down the road.
Fair enough. Where do you think? So she was 2 years into a 5-year contract, and she was making $580,000 a year, plus bonuses, I'm sure. Where do you think she lands next?
Well, thus far, her background has been in the energy sector. Remember, before she came to Hydro-Quebec, she was what used to be referred to as, natural gas naturel. It's
Énergieur.
Yeah, énergieur. So, that's not an industry that is unique to Quebec. I don't think there's a force field around this province that's going to say, you can't go work someplace else. And frankly, I think within corporate Canada, they know talent when they see it. They know what a railroading looks like when they see it. Mm-hmm. And as I say, maybe the same sector, but listen, if she's a person of principle, if she has, and she does have a proven track record of taking a crown corporation, which at one point was considered, it was just the idea of excess was sort of synonymous with Hydro-Quebec. If she can go and put her imprimatur on no matter what, company, I think she'll be very much sought after.
All right. Let me move on from that to the other story that kind of caught us by surprise today real quick. So CF Montreal hires himself a new coach for their reserve team. A day later, he's no longer the head coach for the reserve team. We found out he'd done some pretty awful stuff back in 2012, including apparently, he says his account was hacked, Jim, suggesting that on the night of the shooting of the Metropolis, the shooter, of course, the disappointing part was didn't get who the target was, or at least who was intended for, right?
Pauline Marois.
Yeah, he didn't get Marois.
What do you think here?
It was, okay, first of all, as you're quite right, Sandro Grande says, no, my account was hacked. He admits that he referred to Quebecers as Northern Hillbillies. But he says my account was hacked for the rest of that. It's interesting to note that Gabriel Gervais, who's the CEO of CF Montreal, held a press conference today and said he doesn't buy it. He doesn't believe that was the case. But all that said, we still have to look at Monsieur Gervais and say, if you didn't believe that's the case, what's the guy doing there in the first place? Yeah. And we're not even mentioning the incident 13 years ago where he was strangling a fellow player. But, this is the thing, and I'm sorry, you can talk about, there's sports, and, if you know what you're doing and whatever, it's Quebec, it's so stupid. Sports, football, soccer, hockey, it's entertainment. And as the Habs can tell you, when you screw up your public relations, you pay a very, very heavy price for that. And I think Monsieur Gervais saw that when you have all political parties up in Quebec City essentially gobsmacked by this guy's being hired, you know that, something's going to happen. And I guess the only way that, the only honor, if I can use that word, that CF Montreal derives from this entire episode is that they acted so quickly to end this. That was good PR. The bad PR, of course, was not recognizing this before they hired him.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adamant.